in 5th grade. According to Nat, he was zoning out on the tube, and for those unfamiliar with what tube means, the vernacular tube means television. And then I asked Nat, do you have any homework? Nat, yes. Nat, where is it? Nat, in my backpack? Nat, let me see it. Nat, I knew I was busted. Grumma proceeded to see the horror of his math. He basically got all of his multiplication math problems wrong. He sucked at math and memorizing anything in general, and he hadn't memorized his multiplication tables. She persisted and said, no, you have to memorize them. He was using his fingers and toes. He was so frustrated, he just wanted to quit. So she put together several pieces of paper and taped them to his closet and on the back of blank cards. It took a few days, but they did it. But Grumma was our greatest teacher, teaching all of us through her actions and deeds to love, to be tolerant, to be patient, kind, to have faith in God, to love your family, and to live lives that are based on serving others. This vignette, I think, is fitting of the kind of values that Grumma imparted us as grandchildren. Gingis' story is as follows. One day when I was 5 or 6, my brother and I found ourselves at their first house in Daly City. Grumma and Grumpa were running a daycare that day. They accepted the task of watching Nat, Chris, Junior, Ned, Noreen, Andrew, and me. Keep in mind, no one was older than 8. When the cousins gathered together, it was like a scene from a movie or TV sitcom. 7 hungry little kids running amok, looking for something to do. We weren't always the easy bunch to get along, but somehow it was Grumma who corralled us, kept us in line, and found a way to teach us life lessons along the way. We finished making a mess of the living room, which was a very common thing when we were growing up. Building a fort from the seat cushions of the sofa and the frame of the coffee table. Toys lie strewn across the floor, our white socks now charcoal gray from the carpet. Grumma called us into the small kitchen to eat lunch. She had cooked rice with nilaga. I remember how she would settle us into our chairs around the table, placing Nat and me strategically next to our brothers. We were all hungry, so we started to serve ourselves. An argument broke out because some kids took more food than the others. And Grumma took this as an opportunity to teach us about sharing. She had explained it's not right to take the lion's share when there are others who are just as needy. It was my first lesson of the Christian virtues of sharing and compassion to others. But Grumma also taught us something about self-determination, being strong-willed, and thoughtful. So for example, one of Jay's fondest memories was when he learned the word incidentally. So this is what Jay had to say. Maybe you may want to close your ears for a little bit. So in 4th grade, during silent, sustained reading, Grumma walked into my classroom with a book in her hand. My teacher, Mrs. Noble, greeted her at the door, and Grumma introduced herself. I'm Jason's grandma, and I found his library book, incidentally. It is overdue. Well, thank you for returning it. That's very kind of you, replied Mrs. Noble. I found it incidentally in the closet, so I walked here, Grumma said with a chuckle at the end. Keep in mind that this is during the silent, sustained reading, so all 30 sets of eyes and ears were refocused on my brave little Grumma, who walked a mile from Terrapin to return my overdue library book. Just for me. Mrs. Noble thanked her again, and Grumma went on her way, but not before we exchanged smiles. A number of my classmates were delighted with my guest, one of whom I had a crush on. She even whispered to me, "Oh, that's your grandma. She's so cute." I smiled while a few things ran through my head. Does my friend think I'm cute too? How did Grumma find my classroom? How did I check out this book for silent reading if I had one overdue? One question trumped them all. I finally asked, "Mrs. Noble, what does incidentally mean?" So Grumma enjoyed spending quality time with all of her grandchildren, from watching MacGyver with Janelle, or picking fruit with Lois and slicing it into small pieces and feeding her after. But what I'm wondering is, when I would go to Terrapin, Grumma would cook me top ramen, and she would overcook it so the noodles would be really thick. I never got to eat the beautiful fruit that was picked from the trees. But Grumma loved all her grandchildren, and she would do anything to make us happy. When I was a child, Grumma would scratch my back to help me go to sleep. And throughout my adult life, whenever I would see her, I would always sit next to her, turn my back, and she would automatically reach out and start scratching. Even as early as last summer when I saw her at Gerald's college graduation, despite her declining health, I once again turned my back, and she slowly but surely reached out and with her gentle smile started to scratch my back. And that's one of the things that we always talk about is Grumma's smile. Eric says it says it best by telling us that her smile was meaningful and a symbol of her love. Her smile comes from her soul. It is genuine, contagious, and warm. Even if her body had betrayed her, and even if she was in a lot of pain, especially in the last couple of years of her life, you could always count on her to give you peace through her smile. She never allowed you to think about her being weak. In fact, it was her iron will, her inner strength, and desire to live and die on her own terms that we are all inspired by. Her faith, her beauty, warmth, patience, kindness, and love are all things that we will miss. Nanai, Grumma, you will always be in our hearts and minds, and you remain within us.